Hey everyone, Idris here from Just Another Night. For those of you who follow us on our Instagram, Twitter and listen to our podcast, you'll know that we've started doing our YouTube channels now. So every Monday you'll have Curtis uploading his videos based on everything to do with gaming. On the Wednesdays we've got Toby with his top picks, whether it be games, films, books, etc. Friday nights you'll have me talking about all things comics and manga related. And then over the weekend we hope to get you some videos on us having some gameplay. I believe we're looking at doing some Fortnite streaming and maybe some Warzone here and there. But for those of you who are new to the channel, we're basically a group of 3 friends who talk about all things nerdy. So be sure to check us out on our Twitter, on our Instagram, as well as our podcast. We release an episode every Thursday, so one came out just last night where we spoke about hardware. And just drop a comment down below, as well as like and subscribe, and follow us on all our social media. But as you may have guessed from the picture behind me, today's episode is going to be on The Killing Joke. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So as I mentioned earlier in the introduction, the comic we're covering today is the infamous The Batman Killing Joke. Written back in 1988 by Alan Moore, illustrated by Brian Boland, and it was coloured in by John Higgins. So this book was basically to establish a definitive sort of background for the infamous Joker. As a lot of you know who follow the DC universe, there's been numerous amounts of variations of the Joker. You've had the multiverse variations. You've also had, triad versions, gangster versions, and even weird monsters as the Joker. So this book essentially brings about a definitive past for the character. It goes in depth about how he started off and what turned him into who he is today. It follows the premise of one bad day is essentially enough to turn someone into either a villain or into a superhero. So without further ado, let's dive into the book. So as I mentioned, it's time to dive into the story. So as I said, even though it's an origin story for the Joker, it is also a present day Batman story, hence why it's Batman the Killing Joke. So essentially what you find out is the Joker has escaped from prison. Now, from escaping from prison, he's then gone to paralyse Barbara Gordon, who's Batgirl, by shooting her, and then proceeded to kidnap her father, Jim Gordon, the Commissioner of Gotham City. So, while this is all going on, you have the Batman trying to hunt down the Joker to save Gordon's life eventually. But what the Joker has planned for Gordon is something quite sinister. See, a lot of the book has got quite a few panels of flashbacks with the Joker's life. So you learn that he was a failed comedian with a pregnant wife, and he was sort of strong-armed into taking on a criminal job, which led him to become what he is today. It also led to this very iconic scene here of him holding his hair after he came out of that plant. So the whole thing for the Joker is that he wants to show the world, he wants to show Jim Gordon that it only takes one bad day to turn a person into a villain. And that is basically what he plans with Jim Gordon. So once he's kidnapped him, he takes him through this weird roller coaster ride where he shows him very graphic images of his daughter who's now been shot, in an attempt to sort of break Jim's, mental sanity, for instance. Now, as this proceeds, you find out it doesn't work, and Jim comes out. Although a bit traumatised, he is unscathed, and he does say to Batman to, take him down by the book. The scene has got quite a good ending. It shows a moment between the Batman and the Joker, where the Joker sort of tells him of a joke and they both laugh. It's quite a mature book. It's something that would definitely be more appreciated by the older audience, as they'd better understand the sort of undertones of the story. There are quite a few graphic scenes, so I don't recommend it for younger children. But teens and older, it's honestly a great read. So, since the release of the book back in 1988, it was reprinted a few times. So it was redone over in 2006 for when they essentially made a book on Alan Moore's best works, and this did come up in it. It was then later reprinted again in, I believe, 2008, and that's the edition I have here, the deluxe edition. It does feature, it is a hardback, and it features, so the flashback panels are coloured a little differently. Rather than being monotone, they've added a bit of colour into it, but the artwork in here is honestly superb. It's probably one of the best that I've seen around, but as I said, it was illustrated by Brian Boland, and he is a fantastic artist. The story itself was done by Alan Moore. Like I said, he wanted to have a premise where it makes the Joker more real as to how he came about. Hence why the whole theme of Just One Bad Day. With this story, like, it makes it quite surreal. It's not one of those stories which involves, you know, the supernatural or characters like Darkseid and others. It's quite a real story that has inspired quite a lot of other directors, one of which being Tim Burton. He said in an interview once that he struggled with comics in general, purely because he could never follow the speech as well. But after reading The Killing Joke, it did make sense to him. And he used it as his inspiration for when he done the Batman films and his variation of the Joker. Subsequently, Christopher Nolan, he had the same thing as well. He said it was an amazing comic, and again, he used it as inspiration for his Joker. Later on, in 2016, I believe it was, they released the animated version of the book, so they made a film. Again, it's a great film. I definitely recommend you guys go and check it out. It's done very well. I definitely recommend reading it, but even watching the film itself, it's a very good story, as I said. So I figured I'd tell you some of my opinions on the book itself. As you probably already guessed, I love the story. It's a very good story for the Joker and for the Batman. You see him in a different light to what you normally get. It's quite a realistic view on the world as well, if that makes sense. And it's a premise that's been brought up time and time and again, such as the most recent Joker film, which featured Joaquin Phoenix. That premise is always brought up, and I think that's what makes a lot of the viewers be able to see this and enjoy it as much. It's not involving all of your big fantasy sci-fi stuff in there, and it's quite a noir, gritty thriller of a book. Now, it has won a lot of awards, and it's been used as inspiration in many things, as I mentioned earlier, Tim Burton's films, Christopher Nolan's films, as well as other adaptations of the Joker. It was also used as the focal point for creating the Oracle, as some of you may know. So it was a transition between Barbara Gordon being Batgirl to the Oracle in the Watchtower. As I said, it's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. And even if you're not able to pick up a copy, I recommend at least watching the animated film. So guys, I figured I'd do something different. So for next week, I'll let you guys pick which comic book you want me to talk about. So the two I have here, the reason I've picked these is because they've got some new sort of forms of media soon to come out. The first of the pick is Marvel's Eternals. As a lot of you who follow the current Marvel fan base, you'll know that there is a film soon to be released. And the second book, again a personal favourite of mine, is DC's Deceased. So for this one, they've announced that they're going to be doing a sequel to it. So definitely going to be exciting. So I'll give you guys up until, say, Tuesday next week. Leave your comments down below on which you'd like to see. And for next week's video, that's the one I'll go with. So guys, that's the end of the video for tonight. Thanks for tuning in once again. Be sure to drop a like down below, as well as subscribe and leave a comment. Tell us what you've enjoyed so far, what you haven't. And make sure to let me know what you guys want to see for next week. So as I said, the options were Marvel's Eternals and DC's Deceased. I'll give you guys till Tuesday, so that should be plenty of time for me to go through the comments then and see what you guys want to watch. Also, we recently released our podcast last night, and that was based on hardware. The lads and I talk about what we want in the future, what we've had in the past, and things we currently have as well. We've recently gone over to Apple Podcasts, so that's a massive plus for us. So we're available pretty much anywhere now. We've got Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, as well as a couple of others. I'll leave a link down below so you can find whichever platform you prefer and make sure to give it a listen. So once again, thanks for watching everyone, and see you soon.